Avi Mayer is the founder of the Jerusalem Journal. Avi, you're also the former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post until pretty recently, and a former international media spokesperson for the Israeli military. That was quite a while back in your career. You're joining us now from West Jerusalem. So you must have watched, I assume, Witkoff and Kushner address Israelis yesterday in Tel Aviv. We saw the emotion. We also heard the boos for Netanyahu. Your thoughts on that whole moment?
Well, Cyril, this is a country that has been waiting with great anticipation for the past 2 years for the release of those hostages. This is a country that has not actually been able to move on from October 7th. We feel we are in many respects still stuck on that day with the trauma of that horrific massacre because those captives, those hostages have been remaining in Hamas captivity. And so, yes, what you saw last night was an outpouring of emotion, of joy, but muted joy, because we know that some degree, some number of those hostages will unfortunately be returning no longer alive. And some, as your correspondent mentioned, may not return at all, their bodies having been lost somewhere in Gaza. And there is, as you mentioned, some degree of frustration at the current Israeli government that this process has gone on for as long as it have. But I think we are quite relieved to see that this stage of this war is finally coming to an end.
Avi, we don't know at this point where this ceasefire deal, this peace deal goes next. I mean, we don't know if Hamas will totally disarm yet. We don't know if Israel will abide by the ceasefire, because in the past it hasn't. So we have to move past that because we just don't have that information. Let's consider the long-term prospects for peace, which is what Donald Trump is very adamant he wants to see happen. What do you hope will be the final outcome of this entire peace plan?
Look, I think Israelis and Palestinians are united in their desire to live at peace, in safety and security in this land that they share. And I think ultimately that is only possible once Hamas exits the scene, once it is no longer in a governing role in Gaza, once it does indeed demilitarize, as it has committed to do as part of this deal. And once there is genuine reconciliation between the peoples, we have to see significant de-radicalization. The ideology behind Hamas, which of course will linger in Gaza, even if it is no longer in a formal governing role, may remain. And that, I think, is something that needs to be dealt with. And I think that as someone who grew up in this country, who has been through the Israeli school system, we have always been educated to embrace peace. It's the first word we learn, shalom. And I think that once we see that happening on the Palestinian side as well, in Gaza and in the West Bank, that is when the true process for peace can become possible.
But you know what Palestinians would tell you, right, if they heard that answer? They would tell you, we've been under occupation, illegal occupation, our entire lives. I mean, do you think that should Palestinians ultimately have the state that they're actually entitled to under international law?
Well, I think that the only plausible solution to this conflict is indeed a two-state solution with Israelis and Palestinians living side by side in peace and security. I can't imagine another plausible scenario at this stage. And we do know that over the course of the years, there have been numerous opportunities for that solution to come about. Bill Clinton has spoken openly about how he sort of presided over this process where Yasser Arafat was offered 97% of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and he turned that down. So, yes, there have been many opportunities for us to achieve a two-state solution. Again, the only plausible solution to this conflict. And one can hope that this event that we are seeing unfold before our very eyes, the end of this stage of the war, can be the first stage of moving towards that future.
Yeah, if you're referring to the Oslo peace process, the Palestinians didn't turn it down. Yitzhak Rabin, the man who shook Yasser Arafat's hand and who was tasked with then selling this peace plan to his people, to the Israelis, he was assassinated, and that he was assassinated by an Israeli extremist who's still in Israeli jail, and that was really the beginning of the nail in the coffin. Do you believe Israel should continue its illegal occupation of Palestinian land?
I'm sorry. I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to the early 2000s, the negotiations between Ehud Barak and Yasser Arafat, presided over by Bill Clinton, which he has spoken about, written about extensively in his memoirs, spoken about even recently, and said that the Palestinians had an opportunity 25 years ago to form a Palestinian state. And not only did they turn it down, but they launched what is now known as the Second Intifada, murdering hundreds of Israelis and bringing that process to an end.
So about that question, do you believe that Israel should remain illegally on Palestinian land, where it has been for more than half a century?
I think, again, the only solution is one.
Wait, can we have an answer to that question?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, will you let me finish my answer? May I finish my answer?
I'm listening.
Thank you. As I said earlier, that the only plausible solution to this conflict is a two-state solution in which the land is partitioned between a Jewish state of Israel, a Jewish and democratic state of Israel, and a Palestinian state, which hopefully will also be democratic and secure the rights of all of its inhabitants. That, of course, will entail the withdrawal of Israel from a certain portion of the land, as has been offered on numerous occasions in the past. Unfortunately, in the past, Palestinian leaders have rejected those offers that have instead launched waves of terror and violence that have murdered and maimed Israelis. I'm hopeful that a Palestinian leadership will emerge in the future that will embrace peace and will embrace a future of reconciliation, and that such an outcome will indeed be possible at that time.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand. You are in favor of Israel ending its illegal occupation, yes?
I'm in favor of a two-state solution in which a responsible Palestinian leadership agrees to end its war of annihilation against the state of Israel, embraces peace and tolerance, educates its people for that future, and engages in a process that will result in a two-state solution. Yes.
Now, the Palestinian leadership that actually represents Palestinians on the international stage, as you know, is the Palestinian Authority. I'm not sure if you read the speech by Mahmoud Abbas that he gave at the United Nations General Assembly. Well, he wasn't there because the U.S. banned him from actually attending, but he gave it from Ramallah, and he said everything you just said that Israel and you want: peaceful engagement with Israel, no attacks, security cooperation. All of this, by the way, they have a demonstrated track record of actually doing, the Palestinian Authority. He even said, because you mentioned radicalization earlier and all of that, he even said change the school curricula in Palestinian textbooks in alignment with UNESCO standards. It is everything that Israel says it wants publicly. And by the way, he's been saying this for a long time. What they want is a Palestinian state under 1967 borders, which is what they are entitled to under all UN resolutions and under international law. So are you okay with that deal?
Mahmoud Abbas is the unelected leader of the Palestinian Authority. He is himself a Holocaust denier who has for years rewarded terrorists, those who have murdered. Excuse me, sir. May I finish my response? May I?
We're listening to you, Avi, but this is an interview. This is an interview. I get to speak to. Answer the question, please.
Excuse me, sir.
Answer the question.
I'm about to answer your question.
Go ahead.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas is a Holocaust denier who has presided over a system that rewards Palestinians for murdering Israelis, that the payment is contingent upon the number of Israelis who've been murdered and how long they have been sentenced to prison. And so the notion that this man is leading the Palestinian people to a peaceful future is absolutely preposterous. He would have to exit the scene for any such future to be possible. But you're also ignoring the fact that half of the Palestinian people in this land are controlled or have been controlled by Hamas, which is avowedly genocidal, which wants nothing more than all the Jews in this land to depart and for the land of Israel to be replaced by a land of Palestine. They say so very openly. They say that not only have they committed October 7th, but they will continue to commit more and more October 7th-like massacres until Israel is erased. So the notion that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas presides over the entirety of the Palestinian people is, again, simply fictional. And only once again a responsible Palestinian leadership that wants the best for its people and wants to live at peace and security with the Israeli people emerges, that is when such a future will actually be possible.
Okay. I'm not sure bringing up the concept of genocide is a winner for Israel, which actually is on trial for genocide, as you know. My question is, do you think there needs to be a mindset change in Israel? So this is provided for in point 18 of Donald Trump's peace plan. He says there should be, quote, a dialogue on tolerance and peaceful coexistence to change mindsets of Palestinians, not just Palestinians, Israelis too. Given what we hear, the public statements we hear from Israeli leaders at all levels of government, do you think there needs to be a mindset change?
Well, again, as someone who has lived in Israel for most of his life, who was educated in the Israeli school system, I can tell you that there is nothing that Israelis want more than to live at peace, to raise their children in a safe environment, not to wonder whether they will be sending their children to war or whether their children will be killed in a terrorist attack. And so I think you will not find another society in the world that is as eager as Israel's to embrace peace, to embrace tolerance, to embrace a future of reconciliation and peaceful coexistence. And I think that is what you will see should we, in fact, receive any kind of peaceful gesture from Palestinian leadership on the other side. Again, unfortunately, that has been elusive for decades, and we are hopeful that now we may move past this horrific chapter of the past 2 years, which has seen way too much death and destruction on both sides of the border, to a more hopeful future in which that future may indeed be possible.
Okay. The statements from Israeli leaders are not statements of peace. They do not think like us. The Israeli interest is that there wouldn't be any Arabs here in the occupied West Bank. If we could expel everyone, we would have done it. That's the deputy speaker of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Nissim Vaturi is his name. That was just a couple weeks ago. I'd love to continue this conversation. We're going to have to leave it here for now. There's a lot of news happening today. Avi Mayer, thank you very much for joining us on the Al Jazeera NewsHour.
Thank you.